If you look around and you feel alone and you feel like the odds are stacked, I want you to know that you have a responsibility. You might not be in the trench, but maybe you're one of the people on the outside of the trench that's trying to push people away, that's trying to make things easier for those behind the trench. Whatever platform you have, whatever voice you have, whatever money you have, whatever dua you have, when you use that for Allah, you are not alone. And when you talk about the odds being stacked against the people, the odds were stacked against those that were fighting apartheid in South Africa as well. But you know what? They persevered without Iman. What about you when you have Iman? What about you when you have Iman? The narrative will change one day, and all of these pro-apartheid, pro-occupation politicians and celebrities and voices, everyone that justified this genocide and madness, will go down in history as an evil, malicious human being, as a failure in history, and more than that, will be raised up in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and have to face the consequences of justifying and supporting and enabling this evil. But what about us? I want to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment and say, I did everything I possibly could to not let them be slaughtered in the dark. I did everything I possibly could to not let them be butchered without anyone watching. And I was willing to face whatever small consequences I had here. And you know what, dear brothers and sisters, I want to fast forward to an image, and it's one that I've been thinking about in these last few days. Some of us have family in Gaza, some of us have relatives, and even if you don't, your hearts have moved, you've shed a few tears, I hope, you've made some sincere du'as for your brothers and sisters. I pray that's the case. Some of those people that you're seeing in those videos that you've never met in real life, I want you to imagine the scene when you meet them in the hereafter. Those people that showed up on your phone and you watched them pulling out their babies from under the rubble, those people who cried out and said, where is the world? I want you to imagine when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts you right in front of that person on the Day of Judgment, and you recognize them and they recognize you. And they come up to you and they say, Jazakallahu khairah. May Allah reward you. Oh Allah, this person saw me from thousands of miles away and did not back away from me. This brother, this sister was there for me. This person raised their voice. And all along, we knew that you would help us, Allah. We knew that victory was from you. Palestine will win, insha'Allah ta'ala. Gaza will win, insha'Allah ta'ala. Al-Aqsa will be liberated, insha'Allah. And we will not let propaganda and the machinery of propaganda, with all of its establishments and powers, intimidate us. In fact, it should increase us in faith. You know, it's one thing to not despair, it's another thing to be increased. Zadahum imana. Be increased in faith. The more that you see them scrambling, they have to make up hoaxes about the Palestinian people. The more that they generate AI images and make up their slanders and their lies and frame and stereotype, the more that they have confidence, the more that we have certainty in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ala inna nasrullahi qareeb. We're on the right side of history, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And we're on the right side of this entire atrocity that is playing out in front of us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to that which is good, to be with our brothers and sisters in Palestine, to be with our brothers and sisters that are oppressed in any part of the world. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase us in faith, to increase them in faith. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect the innocent and to make them steadfast. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that as these days become difficult, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to come together as a community, come together as people of faith, come together as people of conscience, and support our brothers and sisters in any way. We ask Allah to guide us to be on the side of the oppressed, whether they're in the streets of Dallas or they're in the streets of Gaza, and to not make us amongst those that turn a blind eye to the oppressed. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that in that process that we never become oppressors, either actively or passively. Allahumma ameen. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين